This episode of Dispatch Radio is brought to you by HK Real Estate in Golden. Does all this outdoor stoke on Dispatch Radio have you inspired to pick up and move to Colorado's Front Range? Or perhaps you're a Goldenite looking for a home to accommodate your growing family. Smart, outdoorsy people like Golden Hell Week creator Quinn Carrasco choose Heather Kirchhoff at HK Real Estate. Check her out at Heather Kirchhoff, that's Kirchhoff with 2 H's and 2 F's.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dispatch Radio. I am your host, Russ Rizzo, coming off a 4 a.m. run around Golden, Colorado, feeling inspired by a friend of the show, Travis Macy. Before we start today's show, your next chance to come see us live on the Front Range is coming Saturday, December 15th. We'll be at the new Runners High store in Morrison, Colorado, hosting the Dirty 30 kickoff party and community run with Kat Bradley, running coach David Roach, and other special guests. We'll start the morning with a run through Red Rocks Park and record with David and Kat. For details, head over to the events page at dispatchradio.com. On today's show, we bring you our latest Front Range Live. We gathered with a terrific live audience at New Terrain Brewing in Golden to run, drink beers, and record this live podcast episode with the Golden Girl herself, Courtney, hashtag Dewey to it, Dauwalter, and the woman who is enabling her, Candice Burt, herself an accomplished ultra runner and race director of 3 200-plus mile races and counting. For those unfamiliar with Courtney's many amazing feats, simply Google Big's Backyard and Courtney to read about her 2.5-day-long run in Tennessee covering 279 miles on a single 4-mile loop in the Tennessee woods. Crazy stuff. And Courtney told us she loves jokes and a particular genre of jokes, so naturally that is where we're going to start. If you enjoy the show, let us know with a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player, however you're listening to us right now, when you subscribe to the feed. Sound engineering for this episode by Christopher Wright with Work at Bird Studios, and theme music by Corey Fain.
Backcountry Colorado, hiking, backpacking.
I did a lot of marathons. I was convinced to do some ultras.
Climbing, and I do filming and photography.
I just like the ultras because I love the community. I just think that everybody is so nice, whether they're the first place finishers or, you know, us that kind of mosey along.
A grasshopper walks into the bar. And the bartender says, what do you have? And the grasshopper says, I'll have a Coors Light. And the bartender says, okay. We have a drink named after you. And the grasshopper says, what? You got a drink named Steve?
And a moray eel walks into the bar. The bartender says, you're back for more, eh?
Chameleon walks into a bar. Bartender says, if your wife calls, I didn't see you.
So Candice, I don't even know where do you go from here? I mean, we've got great jokes. What we wanted to get to was the craziness of it all.
Hallucinations.
And hallucinations. I mean, where to start with both of you? Do we need pretext? I think we need a little pretext for somebody that might not know who Courtney is? Could that possible? I don't even know if that's possible. But how would you describe her to somebody new to the sport that maybe just wandered in here, doesn't have any idea what's going on? Who's this person?
Well, I would say there's so many places I could start. Courtney is competitively at the top of the field, I would say right now in ultra running. But one of the other things that makes her especially unique is the fact that she is willing to do the really long ultras, not just the 50Ks and the 50 miles. So I met her when she came out and did my race, the Moab 240, which used to be the Moab 200, but since it was 240 miles, we decided to call it 240, not 200. You're welcome. I really wanted to call it 200, but so I'm just going to keep bringing that up. It's a little bit, it just, but yeah.
And what, you design these courses and you're like, somebody can't be crazy enough to do this, and then she comes, and then she not only starts dominating these races, but beating the men, as we all know.
Right.
But it's more than that, because there's there's been fast people that don't captivate us like a Courtney, you know, that we don't all want to put on a Dewey Tuitt shirt, right? What else is it about her?
I think
We're gonna embarrass
she's
the hell out of you
new
tonight.
style, perhaps. She just does her own thing. We appreciate that, right? She has her own style. She doesn't have a coach. She doesn't have a training plan.
Long
She doesn't
shorts.
have a diet. I think we just appreciate the natural realness,
right?
authenticity.
I mentioned earlier Chris Wright with Work at Burt over here. He's like my Paul Schaefer guys. Like, this thing could go big.
And
right?
orange Tic Tacs.
Look at this guy. Orange Tic Tacs. You are Courtney's new favorite. She's like, can I bring you everywhere? Wouldn't that be cool if she just like everywhere Courtney went, she could just pop up and have a DJ playing Michael Jackson? You don't get them all.
He can come to my races too and DJ.
So why? I guess that's one thing we want to get to is why. Why does somebody want to run 240 miles? I imagine, because I listen to Joe Rogan, I'm hip. Like my buddy Corey, who's not here because he had to take his kids home, but he knows your name, and he's not a runner. He, bike commutes. He does what he can. But he's like, you got to get Courtney on your show because he listened to Joe Rogan, and he knows that you're crazy.
Okay.
I mean, is that the answer?
Yeah, that's
As to
part of
why?
the answer, for sure.
Yeah.
But also just why not? Like, people like Candice are putting these races together for us. Why would we not try them?
I could think of a few reasons.
What are the
I'm sure we could come up with some reasons.
I agree with Courtney.
It sounds like a lot of time training. Okay,
You're
a
by
lot of
yourself
time.
here, buddy.
Courtney, I know. I wanted to be over here and feel safe, and now I'm in the middle.
Russ, registration's open.
I am totally going to do one. I am. If Jason Anton, that was inspiring, man. Like a guy that can climb Denali and then run 200. Anyway, we're not here to talk about. I'm kind of a fanboy of Jay. Have you noticed?
Yeah, he should be
Just
up
a little
here.
bit. No, he is. We're doing another one. Would you guys like to come back and hear all about Jason Anton?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And our trio of Incredibles up here.
Definitely those three need to be
So
on
you're
the
crazy.
podcast.
That's what we're getting to. And why not?
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's possible. You can do it. So.
You can do it.
No, anyone could
Do it.
Everyone in
Do
this
it to
room
it. Yeah.
could do a 200-mile race. Every single person.
I don't know. Do you
I
guys
don't
really
recommend
believe
it.
that?
Not recommended for the small.
Wait,
children.
okay. Will you stand up if you honest to God, believe that you could do 200 miles? Stand
Don't make
up.
them stand. Make them sit if they can do it. Yeah.
Stand up. Oh, Elliott's like Garrett's like my man.
Oh, yeah.
Elliott over here. Elliott Couch. Elliott Couch.
How about you stand up if you have done a 200 miler?
Jeez, we don't have that many
Some
people.
of those.
Whoa!
Yes.
Look at that. We have a stout crowd here at Newton. Whoa, these guys. They're doing lunges. They're just doing lunges for fun. That's what happens when you come drink beer in Golden. Hey, just get my numbers in, man.
Wait, you want to say who's crew to 200?
Who's crew? If you've been, we do have a podcast audience, so round of applause if you've been to a 200, participated in any way. They're a tired bunch. They're just all tired. Yeah, Kevin's been to a few.
Yeah,
Kevin,
it's a hard job.
200 is the new 100. So we want to get to why. So we talked about crazy. We talked about why not. Okay.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Adventure.
Adventure.
If you enjoy spending time outdoors, then why not spend 3 or 4 days? Why not? We would support you and mark the course. And if you do happen to have a medical problem, there's a medical team. So it's a nice way to get a supported kind of multi-day thing out there, and then you can choose.
It's just a nice way to spend By round of applause, we're gonna test our audience tonight. By round of applause, when I say 1 minute nap, 1 minute nap, does that mean anything to anybody? We want to get a gauge of who we're talking with. Okay, got you. So they haven't listened to all your podcasts.
It's perfect.
But is this true? You can take a 1 minute nap during a race?
I mean, I've done it, yeah, and it was amazing. It was the best sleep I've ever gotten. It was 60 seconds of REM cycling and waking up more refreshed than I've ever been, but then sometimes it doesn't work.
All right.
So it's not a guarantee.
Where's
60
Kevin?
seconds.
Kevin, you're an honest guy. Don't lie to me. Is that true? Did she take a 60-second nap? I wasn't with her. Oh, he wasn't with you.
He wasn't there.
Where was he?
A different pacer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you so that what does that mean? That means we're taking our mind to some crazy new place.
Yeah, I think when you're running a nonstop race and you're being timed the entire time, you really got to think about how much time you want to take, especially if you're trying to be competitive. Like Courtney, a lot of other people will sleep like 5 hours at a time. Just saying.
Some people do
There's
sleep,
options.
by the way. Jason, did you sleep?
I attempted to sleep.
He attempted. And no, didn't work out?
Work
It worked all right.
because you were uncomfortable?
Where did Jody go? Jody, during your Moab 240, did you sleep?
Between 5 and 6 hours.
Reasonable, a 5-hour sleep. Okay, all right. All right.
How long does it take to run a 200 mile?
Kelly would like to know, how long did it take you to run 240 miles? Are you asking her how long it takes her?
Or just how long did it take Courtney?
Courtney.
And then how long does it take a normal person?
Yeah.
Not that you're not normal, but you're not.
You're not normal.
It's true.
No, for the 240 or for 200 miles? Because
Well, either, you can say.
okay, Moab 240 took like 58 hours.
And you did the Big's Backyard was recent.
pretty recent.
This is what happens when you deal with people like Courtney. She was like, yeah, I'm going to this race in Tennessee. So I won't be communicating for a little bit. She was like racing on Saturday. So I'm like texting her on Monday, and I'm like, hey, I hope the race went. She's still racing, people. Like 3 days, she's just running a 4-mile. Is this right? Am I making any of this up? 4-mile loop in the woods.
That's correct.
And the whole point of the race is you just go until someone drops. Like there's only one person that finishes the race.
Yeah, you go until everyone has dropped.
Except for you.
And you went how many miles?
279 miles.
Wow. And you think next year you can get it to what? Because that's how you think. Crazy.
Break into the 300s.
I could definitely get to 3.
Are you signed up for the lottery? Or he's just going to let you in?
I'm currently not signed up.
Yeah, I know.
I'm waiting.
She's Courtney.
Candice is going to put together a 500-mile race.
Yeah, that's true.
So
No
I'm
pressure.
waiting for that one.
But take that off for a
Candice,
second.
she's going to break some news for me. Come on, go ahead. Yeah.
But I was curious, are you going to do Big's Backyard next year?
I have to look at the timing with some other stuff, but I would love to, and if not next year, then the following year for sure. It's a really cool setup. It's a 4-mile loop. You just have to do 4 miles an hour, and that's all you can do.
That's all you gotta
So
do.
you can't get ahead. You wait at the start line until the next hour starts, and then you start this 4-mile loop again.
That's brutal because you can't sleep, right? I mean,
You can't really sleep.
at some point you can't.
Yeah, I wasn't sleeping very well, but you could, in theory, grab like 10 to 15 minutes of sleep every hour if you were good at falling asleep instantly. I could not put together the sleep game as well as the 1-minute nap had worked that one time. But yeah, some people were like falling asleep right when they sat down. So practice that, and you will be successful
4 miles
at
an
Big's
hour.
Backyard. Yeah.
All right. That sounds like a Beat Monday, Jason. What do you think? A Beat Monday for the...
You might run out of time.
Yeah. You might run out of time. Well, get it done. Just get it done, guys. It's a race you can't get done. It just depends on how...
Yeah.
It's a psychological mind bend, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The guy who ended up winning actually told me in day 1, he said, we can't start the mind games until we've hit 100 miles. So he was like, I'll hold off on psychological warfare until day 2.
And did he bring it?
He did. I didn't really notice
Hey,
it.
how do we get in your head?
Well, I think he was doing it sneakily. I didn't notice
Like, what
his
did, now,
games.
and looking back, like, what things do you think now you're like, oh, maybe that meant something?
Oh, man.
Give us something.
Yeah, I mean, all the smiles when you're faking
smiles.
it are definitely...
He was shining it on. He was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm feeling
He's
good.
like, this is the best
And he like gets
ever.
around the corner. He's like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, because you couldn't get away from people. So you were always surrounded by the people who were remaining. So you had to like put on a front kind of that you were good. You're entered in the lottery, right, Candice?
Candice?
No, not
I
yet.
thought you were.
Not
I'm
yet.
thinking
She's
about
being
it, but
coy.
I organized the Moab 240, and it's right before.
It would be perfect.
That would be fun. Wouldn't you guys like to see that? They would do it together, probably.
Jody, this
I
is
feel like
what
you should be
happens, right?
rested for something like that.
These people are crazy, I tell you, people.
possible.
Okay. So, is it fair to say that you are pushing the bounds of human performance in a way that hasn't been seen before? Is that too much?
I think that's too much.
Okay. If she's not doing, like, do you agree? Is that too much?
There's a lot of crazy stuff out there, so it's hard to say anybody
What
really.
would be the best argument for yes, she is?
Well, I think she's getting exposure on a bigger stage than a lot of people have in the past, and that's really fun to see because, like Courtney said, anybody really can do this, especially anybody in this room can do Big's Backyard or a 200-miler or something. It's really, you have to just want the adventure, and then you make it happen.
Well, I think you're pioneering something. Something's going on.
Thank
because you told me you're not even meditating yet. You don't even have a meditation game. Is that right?
That's correct.
Does that surprise? Am I the only one surprised to hear that Courtney does not meditate on a regular basis?
She doesn't need one.
Really?
She's got
Superhuman.
She's fine, just the way she is.
But is it a topic on your radar? I know it's something that people are talking about. I'm wondering if it's something you talk about.
Yeah, I think meditating involves sitting still. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm not so great at sitting still.
Well, some people would say running is meditation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you meditate when you run?
I don't ever call it meditating, but
But
maybe.
is it meditating to you, though? Like, when you hear other people describe meditation, does it sound like what you do?
No, I
Okay.
wouldn't say that. I don't want to I don't want to take in that word because
Yeah.
I think meditating is cool and you should absolutely do it if it works for you. So I don't want to adopt that word for what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay.
I don't call it that, no.
I'm curious though.
What are you thinking of? So who can you raise your hand? Zach. So Zach wanted to know, you spend a lot of time out there, days.
Yeah.
What do you think about?
So many things. Everything and nothing. You can walk down memory lane, so you could end up, anywhere in your life before just thinking about it, and you could also, be thinking about big life questions. I think about space travel a lot. And some hours I spend thinking about the greatest combination of toppings for nachos.
What are the greatest combination for tacos?
Nachos.
Yeah, what are they? For the nachos, sorry.
Oh man. It depends on the day.
Okay. Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Jalapenos?
Absolutely jalapenos.
Candice recorded a podcast with Courtney earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast venture so far? And tell us a little bit about just yourself and creating these races. I know that you are an ultra runner, in your own right. There's something called the Infinity Loop. These guys know about that stuff. So we want to hear about the Infinity Loop, starting
I
these
don't know
crazy races.
the Infinity Loop. But
Did you do Rainier? Did you run around Rainier?
oh, the Wonderland Trail.
The Wonderland Trail.
Yeah.
Excuse me. My Infinity Loop's over here.
Good one.
Yeah. We want to hear about that. Just how did it all start? Why would you start?
That's a lot of stuff. I don't know where to start. I've been running ultras, I guess, since 2010, and I would just really love the long stuff, like Courtney. But because there's not a lot of 200s in the U.S. other than the races that I'm organizing that aren't repetitive, so mine are basically point-to-point kinds of routes. I haven't run very many myself. I've just done one 200-miler, but I'll be running a 200 in Australia. You guys should check it out. It's called the Delirious West 200 in February. Maybe Courtney will come out for that.
Did you convince her yet? No.
No, but
Doesn't look like it.
who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It sounds amazing.
You haven't developed your
I'm
plan.
so excited for you.
Yeah, it'll be fun, maybe. So I love doing unsupported routes, stuff like that, just going out and adventuring. because as a race director, being in that race setup, sometimes I just like to get away from that and go out and do long routes. So I did the Wonderland Trail this year in September, which is 93 miles. If you haven't done it, it's in Washington State. It's a classic route. It's amazing. You can do it in one day or one day plus a little bit like I did, or you can go out and do it in 3 days, which is probably more fun. And I mean, it is more fun to do it in 3 days, I'm sure of it. And there's bears and mountain lions and all that kind of stuff. So I just consider myself an adventurer.
Before our bio break, I think we had a question right up here. Who do we have here?
I'm Kevin Wee.
Oh, Kevin. Thanks for being out here, Kevin.
My question's for Candice. I know you were here this summer up in Leadville area, I believe. What are the odds of us having a Colorado 200? I know there was some speculation with how much time you were
Colorado
training
200.
And is
You
that
like
too
the sound of that?
difficult? Is land management, getting permits in Colorado, is that a difficult thing? Have you guys ever looked into it? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Colorado is probably the best. I'm in Washington, but it's probably the best state.
Whoa, huh? An honest guest.
It's
we like
true.
that.
It's an amazing state. And so have I thought about putting on something here? Absolutely. And I love the Leadville area. I think in some ways it's underrated. It's an amazing town. It's a small town. It's got great stores and restaurants. And I think there's an opportunity to, permitting-wise, put on something that could even get up to 14,000 feet. So I would love to do something like that. It just takes a little bit of time, and I'm not sure the distance, but I got all the maps, and I've been working on stuff.
Before we go for our break, favorite places in Colorado to run? Who wants to start that?
Leadville.
Leadville would be? Tell me about that.
Buena Vista, too.
Buena Vista, yeah, pretty nice.
Oh,
Courtney.
I love Buena Vista and
Yeah.
Steamboat Springs.
Steamboat,
Crested
yeah.
Butte. Yeah, any of those mountain towns.
And time of year, do you have a favorite time of year?
Fall.
Fall. Now, you're a Minnesota gal, so cross-country skiing is something you do.
That's correct,
Get
yeah.
the skinny skis out, maybe do
Skinny
some hut
skis.
trips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done them with a hut trip, but that sounds fun.
Because you're not a regimented trainer, as we've discussed, so you kind of leave your life free to be able to do stuff like that.
That's correct. It's
So that-
totally free.
Thank you for being out here. You're going to get back in the room, and we're going to have things rearranged a bit, and we're going to do kind of TRL, intimate time, and people are going to have some more jokes for you. Does that sound good?
I love jokes.
Does that
Yes,
sound good?
bring the jokes.
Sounds great.
And Candice has a joke, I think.
I do.
All right. All right, guys.
I've bombed before, though, right, Garrett?
We'll see you in about 10 minutes, okay? Thanks, guys. So, folks, we'll start off with Candice here. Any questions in the audience for somebody who does this ultra running stuff and also runs as a race director for these races? My man, Garrett.
Candice, your races are filling up. Do you see a time where you have to have a wait list or lottery?
We do have a wait list for Tahoe. Last year, we used the wait list. We actually went through every runner. I think we had about 50 people on the wait list. But with a 200, a lot of people, they decide if they're not ready, they don't do it. So we went down pretty far on that. I think we let everybody who wanted in off the wait list. I don't like lotteries. So, I mean, does anybody here like lotteries?
We can feel you on that one.
Yeah, they're great.
Like the ones for money. I played that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Another Courtney fact.
Like the $1 billion lottery, the Powerball.
Did you buy a ticket?
I played that.
Really?
Yeah. I bought 5 tickets. Didn't.
How'd that pan out for you?
Here I am.
Well, I mentioned we've got our handsome man corner over here. I imagine we might have a joke left and a question. Eric, you killed your joke. Do you have a serious question?
I guess this question is for Candice or Courtney. But how would you describe the difference between a 100-miler and a 200-miler as far as like maybe a racing standpoint?
I think they're pretty similar, but you can go into like the pain cave or like redline it in a 100-miler much sooner. and you just have to be more patient to go into that same place in a 200-mile race. You would love it, Eric.
I would say the biggest difference I've noticed as a racer and a race director is in a 100-miler, you can't lose your mind, really, in the same way. Like in a 200, we have people who quite literally forget who they are, where they are, how they are, and I think that's a big thing. Is sleep. Basically, you could start hallucinating, and so it is a lot more about taking care of your body and learning what you need during that process. Like Courtney said, you can't push as hard straight off the way. You have to be more calculated.
All right. I'm coming over to this side of the table here. Megan Fennessy, Dirty 30 race director. Hello.
Hello. I do have a question. I'm just really curious because I always thought, in 100 I would for sure have some sort of hallucinations based on what I heard everybody talk about, but didn't get to experience that in the 3 that I did. But I'm wondering, Courtney, did you have hallucinations in either the 240 or the Tahoe or this thing in the backyard? And I mean, for someone that's so well trained and can push their body so bad, do you go to that place and what's it like once you get there? Do you want to come out, or are you like really having fun there? Is it better than some of those drugs that people pay good money for?
Definitely better than the drugs. Yeah. So I definitely hallucinate during the longer races. Candice's races have always made me hallucinate some of my favorite characters. But I have hallucinated a leopard in a hammock and a cello player at the Moab 240. They were in the LaSalle Mountain Range. I have seen at Tahoe, it was some puppets on a swing set, but they were like little humans, so like Chucky dolls swinging in the woods.
That's scary.
Yeah. Am I selling you guys on this yet?
Do you know you're there? Is this like a national place for you?
Now I know when I'm hallucinating, and I don't mind it. I think it's pretty fun. But I'll find myself like staring at that spot in the woods as I go by it, just like trying to make out what I'm actually seeing. The first couple times I hallucinated, I didn't know they were hallucinations. So I was in Colorado, in the mountains on single track, and there were giraffes everywhere, and there were eels, like flying eels swooping towards my head. And I was like ducking and covering. I was, I was avoiding the giraffes everywhere they were, and I thought they were actually there. And now it's a fun game of like, what did you see and what can you share with your friends after? That is going to be like, who'd you meet out in the woods in your race this time? Now it's just a game. Yeah, I enjoy going into that place. It means you're pushing really hard, and I like pushing really hard. I like seeing what happens on the other side of that.
Yeah, I would say most people know they're hallucinating, and when you get to the point where you don't know you are, that's definitely like a line you probably don't want to cross too far, but it happens out there. I don't think you're out long enough. Maybe you're not out long enough. It's like 80 hours, 70 hours in. Yeah.
From a race director's perspective, what kind of measures do you put into place to manage these newbies to this distance and this place that you are knowing that they're going to find themselves in and not know how to deal with that?
That's definitely the most concerning thing for us. All runners are required to have spot trackers on them, and we have a live tracking map. We make everybody, you have to rent one of them so that we know it works, and we check them ahead of time to make sure the map's working correctly. Even then you can have issues. It's a device. It's technology, doesn't always work, but it's the best thing we can do to make sure that somebody's safe. We hire an employee just to watch the live tracking map and to see if people are staying in one spot too long. There's certain flags we look for. Somebody who's staying in one spot on the trail too long, somebody who's off course for a certain amount of time. We might let them wander around briefly, you know, like, okay, they've been out.
Rude.
I'm just the honest
Just
truth.
for shits and giggles? Well, let's see what happens.
Well, it's not
just
easy.
kidding.
It's
I'm
not
just
easy
kidding.
to get. I know, but it's true. It's like if we could just drive to that location, sometimes we can just drive somewhere, but a lot of times it's like 7-10 miles out, and so you have to, okay, like, are they really lost, or are they just not that lost? And then we also require people to have the GPX of the course on a phone or a device. It's really easy to do. You should all learn how. We have YouTube videos on it, but that way you can pull up the course if you aren't sure where you're at and figure that out. So those are good measures.
All right, guys. Well, our man, Chris Wright from Work at Burt Studios says he's got a joke for us, right? My Paul Schaefer over here.
Okay, hopefully I get this right. All right, so Duck walks into a bar, right? And he orders a, old-fashioned or something like that. To the bartender, says, that'll be $8.75. Says, put it on my bill.
Quack, quack. All right. Anybody beat that? Anybody?
Look what you started.
Elliot Couch, guys. He's the one that organized this run. Let's give it up for Elliot. And tell us, what did you guys run today?
I ran a 4-mile loop up on North Table Mountain, the local route. Lydic to Table Mesa, down to the waterfall, down to the North Table Loop. I have a joke. It's not good. It's not a bar joke. Can I tell it? Don't laugh. Okay. What did the blue cheese say to the salad? Whew, don't look at me. I'm dressing.
That took me 5 seconds.
No, this is not a joke. This is a question.
He's like, be serious now.
I don't have jokes.
All right,
I guess this is a question for both of you, considering Candice you might put in for Big's backyard. Lazarus Lake, I think he went on record last year saying no female could win this race. And I'm curious if that was something that lit a fire in you to sign up, but also to push it as far as you did. So yeah, that's my question.
I wanted to sign up after watching last year's race go down. So it got down to 2 guys, and they duked it out for 100 miles. There were just 2 men left in Big's Backyard Ultra until finally one of them quit, and the winner made it 250 miles. And so that fired me up about the race in general. Like, what a cool format. There's no finish line. There's no one telling you when to stop. It's just outlasting the other people. It's perfect. Like, what a cool way to test your limits. So that got me excited to sign up. I don't care that Laz has said that no female has finished first or won. Although I was trying really hard to be that this year. Maybe next time. Yeah. That wasn't the fire, though.
Yeah, I think we women do enough. We don't have to prove anything.
Hi. Hi, I'm Megan Gravina, and I kind of have a follow-up to the Big's backyard question, and then a not-so-serious question, but very important. So with Big's backyard, the last lap, you went relatively fast, so I'm curious, was it something that you had decided before you started that last lap? Was it during the last lap, or was it after that you were going to call it quits?
So I made it 279 miles, and I would say around 68. Everything's jumbled in my head, but around 268, let's say, it started spiraling downwards, where I could tell the end was near. Like, my husband was going to he was my crew there, and he was going to take a nap that night at some point, and he told me, like, I'm gonna go take my nap now. I'll see you in a few hours. And I was like, no, like, don't leave me right now. It is not going well, but I was trying to, like, not show it. And I think the lap before I stopped, so lap 66, it was really downward spiraling. And by the time I reached lap 67, there was just like 0% battery left, where my legs were still functioning. You know, nothing had fallen off or broken. I didn't have any visible reason to show for, like, I'm at 0%, but just my entire, like, existence basically was at, there's no battery left. So it kind of, like, happened quickly, but also I could tell it was happening. And I wish it was something more visible, because it would have been easier, I think, to just accept for myself, and also for, like, you know, to be more understandable. But it was like an internal, like, there was nothing left to give.
And my not so serious but very important question.
Great.
Because I am also a huge nacho fiend.
Yes.
And I hate the cheesy sauce, so we have that in common.
Thank you.
But where is your favorite place in Golden to get nachos? Because I haven't found one, and I'm just curious.
I don't think I've found one either. El Tapatio make great nachos?
Anybody have any?
Man.
Zach from Brooklyn has an idea.
No kidding.
No.
If anybody can get it.
For our podcast listeners, Zach, would you explain your sweatshirt?
Sure, yeah. Before moving out to Colorado, I lived in Brooklyn, and I am wearing my favorite Brooklyn Trail Runners sweatshirt. We do have trail running in Brooklyn, Prospect Park, and lots of other places. So if you're running the New York City Marathon, or if you're ever there for any reasons, hit them up. They got some good trails for you. So my question, Courtney, you mentioned, or someone mentioned, that you don't have a coach. I'm curious, like, as you plan out your entire season, how much of your training is intuitive and how much of it is just really mapped out and really dialed into you've got, you know, spreadsheets and tables, or is it all just kind of winging it?
Yeah, there's no spreadsheets or tables. No plan. Sometimes I use a dartboard, and I'll have different workouts on it, and I just throw a dart at it, and I see what happens for the day. Or I draw it out of a hat.
Do you really?
No.
I thought that was a good idea. I can visualize it.
Yeah. No, there's no plan. For the year, definitely not. For the week, definitely not. For the day, maybe it's developed by the time I have my third cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's not necessarily what everybody should do, but but it works for Courtney.
For me, it's just like wondering what's possible. So how far can we go? How fast can we go, both physically and mentally? And then getting the opportunity on these sorts of stages where, I mean, she's got this like beautiful, already planned out, marked 240-mile course, you know, with quesadillas along the way. I get to explore, like, how hard can I push, and for how long can I be pushing that hard? So for me, that's always the motivation. quesadillas or not. Yeah.
A huge thanks to all the FOTS friends of the show in the house. I think it's only fair, Candice, that we end with jokes. Do you have one?
I love jokes.
All right.
All right. I'm nervous because last time I pulled jokes, they bombed. So, no. So the termite walked into the bar, and he came up and he said, "Is the bartender here?"
I like that one. Courtney, can you hit us with one?
No.
You don't have anything?
Oh, I have plenty of jokes. Just not the endings of them.
Right on. Guys, is Jody in the audience? Where is Jody?
She sure is.
So, guys, we got a really cool story. Jody, do you mind if I embarrass you and bring you up? Hi, welcome.
Hi. So I came to Colorado mid-July, ran Leadville, and then I went to a Trail Sisters running retreat 4 days after Leadville and met Courtney. And my original plan was to go home shortly after Leadville. After meeting Courtney, I ended up deciding, she told me I could do the Moab 240, and for some reason I believed her.
It was totally your fault.
So
she quit her job to train for this thing.
I did. And I was like, well, I'm a science teacher. She was a science teacher. I'm like, she tells me I can do this. She seems like an honest person. So I did. I signed up for it in September and went out and actually did course marking for a couple weeks and slept in my vehicle for 2 weeks in the desert and then ran the Moab 240.
And finished
got it done.
And finished the Moab 240.
And guys, yeah.
Thank you, Jody.
As I mentioned, it is Veterans Day, and we did an introduction a little bit earlier on Joshua Stevens. So I did want to just say again, Joshua Stevens, he's served our country for 24 years in the U.S. Army. You know, part of the reason that we're doing our thing is because we feed off of energy from people like you. So Joshua, thank you for your service and for being here. Thank you so much for being out here. Follow along. Courtney, thank you so much for your time. Candice, thank you so much for coming to town. And yeah, that'll be it for this Dispatch Radio Hour. Make sure to thank our man Chris over here, Allison taking photos, our man intern Jake over here, a whole team here, Kelly, everybody making it happen. Make sure to thank those guys and tip your bartenders. Thanks.
And Russ, thank you. Thank you for putting this on. I just started a podcast, and I can tell, I know how much work this is, so thank you for having us on.
We're going to come do a live thing in Washington, huh? Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed the show. If you do, let us know with a review on Apple Podcasts when you subscribe to the show feed. Your reviews help others find the show, which helps us grow and deliver more episodes just like this. Are you in the Front Range and interested to partner with Dispatch Radio on one of our upcoming live events? Reach out to us at info@dispatchradio.com.